Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker has now been announced as in the works for UFC 257, and I am really looking forward to seeing what happens now in the lightweight division and what happens in this fight between Chandler and Hooker. I'm really looking forward to it. Finally, we understand what Michael Chandler is doing so that we can move on with the lightweight division. And that sounds so weird to say because Michael Chandler is not currently in the UFC, but it felt like for a while that he was the champion and we're all waiting for him to make his move so we can make matchups around him, even though he hasn't won a single fight in the UFC whatsoever. I don't understand how he had that much power, but still, he has made his move against Dan Hooker. I know him versus Justin Gaethje was in the works, so I wonder what happened there. Maybe they looked at the scenario in the division, in the lightweight division right now, and thought, hey, Charles Oliveira is going to be left out alone, so maybe we'll just make Chandler versus someone else and do Gaethje versus Oliveira. But I'm going to talk about my prediction for Hooker versus Chandler in this video. I'm going to talk about what's next for the lightweight division. We're going to go over everything, but I assume that this fight is the co-main event of UFC 257 because the current one is I versus Calderwood, so definitely this will be the co-main event of 257, and I'm so glad it got added to the 257 card because that card of Poirier versus McGregor too, although the main event is really good and Burgos versus Dawodu is really good, Khalil Roundtree and Marcin Prachnio on the main card. They're not even prelims of a fight night, in my opinion, and they're on the main card of a pay-per-view. As soon as I saw that, I knew something was wrong. I knew we had more fights to come. There's no way they would put together that much of a shambles of a card. I just hope that they make the right adjustments to the card and put Chandler versus... It's going to be the co-main event. I'm looking forward to it. Great position for both guys to be in. I wonder if Chandler will get the short notice replacement opportunity if anyone out of Poirier or McGregor falls out. That would be interesting to see because the UFC seems to love Chandler even though he's given nothing to the company. It's very strange, the Michael Chandler situation. You want a title shot? No, we're not going to give you that. You can be the short notice replacement. Okay, now we're number one contender. Okay, now we're number two contender. Okay, you turn down all of those. We're still going to give you a top 5 guy. It seems like they're being very favorable to Michael Chandler, and I don't understand why. But I understand it at the same time because they want him to get in there, and that's exactly what I want him to do. And he's picked Dan Hooker as his opponent to do it against. And I think it's a terrible, terrible matchup for him, man. I think this is such a bad matchup for Michael Chandler. I like his chances. I know this is going to sound crazy. I like his chances against Justin Gaethje more than this. I like his chances against Dustin Poirier more than this, against Tony Ferguson more than this. In a 3-rounder, I think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to really beat Dan Hooker. He's got an iron chin, and he doesn't look like he should have an iron chin, but he can take a shot better than anyone I may have ever seen before. I know Tony Ferguson's getting rocked now at his ripe old age of 37, but Dan Hooker's chin has never failed him, and it has been looking really good. Even in the Dustin Poirier fight, maybe that was the straw that broke the camel's back, but he took such a beating, and he takes it so well. I don't see the power of Chandler being a problem to him. I also don't see Chandler's smaller frame and stature dipping around trying to find a way on the inside and level change for a takedown, having a way of dodging the knee up the middle of Dan Hooker. I think Dan Hooker's going to KO Michael Chandler with a knee up the middle at the end of the first or at the start of the second. I don't like this for Michael Chandler whatsoever. I think it's a terrible matchup. Dan Hooker gets it done by late first or second round TKO with a knee up the middle because in a 3-rounder, I just don't see guys outwearing Dan Hooker. I don't see Michael Chandler mauling Dan Hooker in the grappling department. I mean, there's been guys in the Bellator promotion that Chandler has not been able to dominate on the ground, so I understand he's a very touted prospect from Bellator, and he has good wins, but I just am still under the consideration that you cannot compare Bellator talent to UFC talent, especially in the top 5 of the lightweight division. You can't do it in the lightweight division. You actually can't do it in the lightweight division. Fair enough, you want to compare the middleweight divisions or the light heavyweight divisions. Even then, you've got a bad argument. But you're moving down to the lightweight division, and you're saying that Chandler's going to compete with these top 5 guys. I didn't see it happening with Gaethje, but I saw a chance. I thought it was a good matchup for him because Gaethje shells up. He's taken some damage. He's been TKO'd multiple times. But Dan Hooker's iron chin and his knees up the middle and his range finding and his takedown defense, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. Name a guy you see dominate Dan Hooker in the grappling department at all. No one, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like Michael Chandler's going to be in a real big problem. He's chosen Dan Hooker as an opponent, but I think in a 3-rounder, don't see it happening. I think that's the only problem in Dan Hooker's game, is that he has too much time to be in there if he can't get the finish on guys. And I think if you give him 3 rounds, he wins the Poirier fight. That's just how it works. He won the first round. He almost finished Poirier at the end of the second, and it was a close third. You give that a 3-round fight and cut it off after 3 rounds. Dan Hooker wins that fight against Justin Gaethje. I like Dan Hooker's chances against Justin Gaethje, against Tony Ferguson in a 3-rounder. I like Dan Hooker's chances. I just don't like Dan Hooker's chances when we get into those 4th and 5th rounds. And they aren't going to be there. It's a 3-rounder. It's a terrible matchup for Chandler. I think he's going to get KO'd. But now we need to know what's next for the lightweight division of the UFC, because this answers everything to us. This opens up so many more narratives on what to do next. I think they're 100% going to do Ferguson versus Felder. I think they're now most likely going to do Gaethje versus Oliveira. I think that's a matchup they're definitely going to make, and that is a tough matchup for Gaethje, and I feel like Gaethje's kind of get the short end of the stick here, with Charles Oliveira being now passed over to him to deal with in the lightweight division, because I was thinking Gaethje was going to fight Dan Hooker or Chandler, and Hooker was going to fight RDA or Chandler or Gaethje. Like, they were going to find some way of matching up RDA, Hooker, Chandler, and Gaethje in some way whatsoever, but then Oliveira is going to be left out on the sidelines. But now we've got Chandler versus Hooker. I feel like RDA is going to be the one left out on the sidelines, because when you look at that lightweight division right now, RDA does not have a real good argument to get a title elimination bout next, and Charles Oliveira has separated himself from the pack with that Tony Ferguson win. And I look at the division right now at lightweight. You look at RDA's position, number 7. He was at number 5, now he's shimmied all the way down. I mean, it's not looking too good for RDA right now to get himself a good fight in the division. And now what I think is next for Rafael dos Anjos is an Anthony Pettis rematch. I think they're 100% going to make that fight. They'll make that one at 155 pounds. I thought they might do Pettis versus Al Quinta, but they're not going to. They're going to do Pettis versus RDA in a rematch. It would be full circle for Anthony Pettis. He always references back to the fight that really made him start his losing streak, was the RDA performance. Every time he loses, he thinks about RDA and how RDA did stuff to him and what RDA did to him whenever he's being overwhelmed by a guy like Ferreira. He thinks of the RDA fight and he takes himself back to there, and I think it's a great storyline where Pettis is like, you know, I now switch off and I don't think about those old fights. I think to have him get past RDA in the lightweight division would really sort of cancel out a lot of Pettis' losses that we've seen him have in the 155-pound division and jump him straight towards the top. But now we've got Dan Hooker versus Chandler, RDA versus Pettis 2. Oliveira is definitely going to be taking on Gaethje. And now I'm looking at the rankings. It seemed very obvious from the beginning, but I don't know why Chandler's taken this one, man. You should have taken the Oliveira bout over this one, and that sounds crazy to some people, but I think this is a terrible matchup. He's bobbing and weaving, he's trying to get his way in on the inside, and I think he's going to get kneed straight up the middle, Ross Pearson, Jim Miller style. I'm not comparing him to their skill level whatsoever, but you know, I think Dan Hooker's going to find that chin right up the middle like he did against Gilbert Burns as well. People remember the lead hook to the body and then the left hook upstairs from Dan Hooker, but they forget about the knee that landed up the middle against Gilbert Burns first while he's trying to find his way on the inside. I don't find it good for Chandler whatsoever, but this is a great one. Glad it's getting the position they deserve. If there's anyone that falls out of the main event, can I be the first one to sign this petition that we can have Dan Hooker be the replacement rather than Michael Chandler, who hasn't had a single fight in the UFC? That would be ideal. Just to bring some respect back to the division. I know that Dan Hooker's coming off a loss, but like, Chandler, he's not in the UFC. I don't understand the favoritism he's got since getting here, but this is a bad matchup to take. Looking forward to seeing how it unfolds. I'm very excited about it because we have had no news in the MMA world. I mean, the biggest news over the past 2 days was Angela Hill making fucking gingerbread houses with UFC fighters. That was the biggest, most breaking news. And I also want to mention this. Dan Hooker's known about this for a week now. He's known about this for a week. I want to mention the timing of the fight announcement, which I think is a very big deal here. And I want you guys to listen up very closely because it's very, very interesting the way they've done this. They have announced Chandler versus Gaethje. Not Chandler versus Gaethje, Chandler versus Hooker. They've announced that fight at the same time or just after they have announced 2 fights that are nothing but embarrassing for the UFC. And I think they've specifically done it to remove... They've done it to remove the questions about the other fights that they've signed, because I don't know if you guys know this, but since they've got rid of Yoel Romero, they've now re-signed Hannah Cifers, who's on a 4-fight win streak right now, against Emily Whitmire, who also is a terribly recorded opponent. They've announced that one, which everyone's angry about. They've announced Dean Barry, is now fighting a returning Mike Jackson. You know Mike Jackson, not Michael Jackson. I'd understand that if they could bring him back somehow and get him in the cage. That'd be a big draw. I'm talking about Mike, the photographer Jackson, who beat CM Punk all that time ago and got cut because of it. They're bringing him back for Dean Barry. Everyone's going crazy on all of the posts that they're announcing these fights for. So they've announced Dan Hooker versus Chandler just afterwards to try and suck the attention away from these terrible matchups they've made. We've also got Chiesa versus Magny, which is an amazing fight, but still looking forward to this one. I think Dan Hooker gets it done in the first or second round TKO, and if he does win, this is a tough division to climb through right now at lightweight. I think the winner of this one could be looking at 100% right now for the belt. They're going to do a Grand Prix, get rid of Khabib. If he's milking the time with the belt, I don't understand why they're doing this. If Khabib's not fighting, strip him of the belt. I don't understand why they would leave him with the belt. It's just going to ruin things. They said they want to wait until after the McGregor versus Poirier matchup. I assume that's because they want McGregor to stick around for at least one more guaranteed time if he does beat Poirier. Because if he beats Poirier for the belt, he might just leave. Now he's got the belt again. You know what I mean? You never know what's going to go on with McGregor. So I feel like they're going to wait until after Poirier versus McGregor. 2, the winner of that one will fight the winner of Gaethje versus Oliveira. This works out perfectly now. This works out so perfectly now. They do Gaethje versus Oliveira. Winner of that one takes on the winner of Poirier versus McGregor 2 for the vacant lightweight world title. No one complains. The winner of Ferguson versus Felder takes on the winner of Hooker versus Chandler. I think that would be a great matchup to make as well. The winner of that one then looks for their title elimination bout and goes on a 3-fight win streak before fighting for the belt, which I think should almost be mandatory unless you're a former champion, in which case I can understand like a Whittaker 2-fight win streak justifying a fight for the belt again. It's a little bit difficult when the guy who beat you still has the belt at the time, but I still think a champion should win 2 and then get a title shot back, and contenders should at least have to be on a 3-fight win streak to be eligible for a title shot, in my opinion. But this is good times, man. I guess they're going to do RDA versus Pettis, and I'm down to see it. I'm really down to see it. If they do RDA versus Pettis, I know Pettis called out Ferguson. Maybe they do the winner of Ferguson Felder versus Anthony Pettis if he gets past RDA. Those would all be great rematches to make, even with RDA and Ferguson as well. Looking forward to seeing what happens in the lightweight division. I think Al Iaquinta might just have to call it quits because it seems like all of the matchups are gone for him unless he wants to take on, I don't know who, like, what, you want to take on Garam Kutseledze or Mateus Gamrot or any of these other guys coming up right now? I don't think he does. I think he was looking for those big names and now they are out of the pit. Maybe he wants a trilogy with Kevin Lee. That could entice Al Iaquinta back. There's nothing Al Iaquinta likes doing more than beating Kevin Lee. So that might get him back in there, but I think they'll do Kevin Lee versus Donald Cerrone in the lightweight division in like March or April, whenever Cerrone's back and whenever Kevin Lee is not injured anymore. We'll see how it goes. I think they'll do Diego Ferreira versus Dariush, which I know they're already doing. The winner of that one should take on the winner of Makhachev versus Dober. That would sort out those guys, and maybe all the way down the line, maybe we do the winner of Pettis RDA versus the winner of Chandler versus Hooker. Then the winner of that one gets a title elimination bout. And we do the winner of Ferguson versus Felder versus the winner of, if Makhachev gets to the top somehow. If Makhachev finds his way to the top of the teens of the lightweight division, I think then we can start looking at a potential Makhachev versus Ferguson matchup, because the storyline there is just too good to pass up. However, with this matchup between Dan Hooker and Chandler, I'll circle this right back around. I think Dan Hooker's going to beat him by TKO in the first or second round. I mean, Chandler's good. He is good, but I just don't think you can compare the level of competition. No matter what Josh Thompson and Big John McCarthy say, there is a clear difference in the skill level between UFC and Bellator fighters, and I think it's going to be on full display when Chandler takes on the number 6 ranked now Dan Hooker in that division. And I'll tell you this, Chandler's in a bad spot because he went from getting basically a title shot if anything happened to Khabib versus Gaethje to then getting a number 1 contender, turn that down, shame on you. Turned down Gaethje as well, it seems like, because I don't think Gaethje was the one that was the problem there. And now he's got Dan Hooker down the list, which actually works out for the best, because now we're not going to see Chandler get a title shot after one fight in the UFC. He's going to have to work his way towards it, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's just right to do it that way. Like, there should be some kind of walking through the flames to get to the belt at the end of it, but we'll see what goes down. Great division of lightweight, back at it again with amazing announcements, and that just saved the 257 card, because other than that, The 257 card is shit. So I'm glad that we've got a good co-main event now as well. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Hooker by TKO. Good. Bye. I'll see you later. Yeah.